after that and watch her try to continue to progress because I like her game. Obviously, she wants to get better than where she is now. She's got a lot of good hand-eye coordination and ability to take the ball early and redirect. But the fan stuff is always fun for me because whenever you see players from smaller countries, the fans are so passionate when they get up to the top.
Miami's peak moment occurred well before the actual final. It is an uncomfortable truth everyone avoids. Two legends met for a title that usually sells out instantly. However, the true electricity had vanished days earlier. Admission prices sank as interest died. What shifted? How did a ghost shadow the entire championship? She notices the media noise, yet the negativity often outweighs the praise. She avoids looking closely, turning away from her own reflection. She swipes past the headlines to escape the scrutiny. Online cruelty is exhausting and simply not worth her precious time or mental energy. If Alex Eala's rise inspires you, subscribe now to witness every legendary step she takes. The moment the championship was set, something felt hollow. Not a minor glitch, but a haunting silence echoing through rows of ghostly vacant chairs. With unsold seats and total apathy, the atmosphere failed two of the game's biggest titans. Her toil persists. She represents the soul of the Philippines, combining raw talent with a vision for tomorrow. Her dream began with local growth, but now she captivates a massive global audience. When Eala competes, entire communities gather to watch. Do people really throw parties? Absolutely. They plan everything around her. Theoretically, this final was a guaranteed blockbuster. You had Aryna Sabalenka, the most terrifying force in the modern power game, battling Coco Gauff, the prodigy crowned as the future. This was a certified dream match. Networks prioritized it, and sponsors poured in heavy investments without a second thought. The stakes were massive, with both fighting for critical points before the clay season. A trophy here secures their ranking. Gauff is starving for this particular win. At her home WTA 1000 event, she seeks her first season title and 12th overall. Meanwhile, Aryna chases the elusive Sunshine Double by sweeping both major tournaments. Yet a void remained. Specifically, a certain presence was missing. Days prior, a different name seized the spotlight, leaving the organizers completely blindsided. A player not meant to lead the story or the sales. Once Alex Eala left, the magic died. There is genuine dread regarding Coco facing the Sabalenka machine. After Aryna crushed the semifinals 6-4, 6-3, her power looked completely unbeatable. That force is frightening, though their rivalry is never lacking in drama. They sit perfectly balanced with 6 wins apiece. While Aryna took the last set, Gauff's next move is anyone's guess. Initially, the red flags were easy to brush aside to maintain the tournament's facade. Then, resale prices began a slow dip before crashing into a complete freefall. Digital engagement flatlined as broadcasters prepared for a significant dip in viewership. The math failed, unless you realize that the old tennis hierarchy no longer dictates fan devotion. That system was breaking. Experts claimed she hadn't earned her stripes among the elite, but those rigid metrics ignored her overwhelming momentum. They missed how the public was becoming obsessed with her personal journey. Her matches brought a wild tension that drew in fans from outside the sport. Nobody else mattered anymore. The era of Alex Eala has arrived. She is the focal point now. Entire families are tailoring their daily routines and meals around her time on court. That represents the peak of tennis devotion. At $77 for a month, it is an easy decision to make. Actually, make that $77 for the entire year. That is an incredible bargain compared to a standard monthly fee. One has to wonder if any other athlete has ever inspired strangers to coordinate their family dinners just to witness a match. Such loyalty usually stays within the family circle. Honestly, most families would probably choose a good meal over a match, yet her impact is revitalizing the sport of tennis. From the opening serve of the tournament, something truly extraordinary began to take shape. Supporters were not merely spectating. They arrived hours early, stayed until the end, and erupted with passion. Her highlights did more than just trend. They went absolutely viral across every digital platform. People who ignored women's tennis suddenly found themselves hooked, drawn in not by statistics or seeds, but by a profound human bond. With every victory, that rapport transformed into a tidal wave of momentum that tournament organizers could hardly contain. Every appearance transcended the typical tournament schedule to become a marquee event, filling seats that usually sit empty during early rounds. The usual polite clapping was replaced by the roaring fervor of a home crowd, even in a city known for its fickle interests. Her digital footprint proved it. as her play consistently drew more eyes than the most famous veterans in the game. By the time the final brackets approached, the entire story had shifted, making any comparison to her peers impossible to overlook. While stars like Sabalenka and Goff possess massive fame, their appeal is often manufactured through branding and high-level promotion. There is an expectation for people to watch them, but Alex Eala completely rewrote that script. It was inspiring to watch the youngster meet the pressure head-on. Despite looking physically drained in the second set, she clawed her way back. That relentless grit is exactly what fans can expect to see for the next decade if she maintains this drive. Her inner strength is truly remarkable. Witnessing her struggle through that battle was something else. She was competing against a powerhouse like Jessica Pegula while her leg was heavily bandaged. There were several points during the match where it seemed like her run had finally reached its end. The tension was so high that observers were constantly on the edge of their seats, ready to call it a day. Fans were not filling those seats because of a marketing campaign. They were there because they genuinely wanted to witness her journey. That distinction is vital. It represents the chasm between attention that is forced and interest that is naturally earned. It is the gap between a match that looks significant on a spreadsheet and one that feels vital in the moment. While she remained in the draw, the atmosphere in Miami was electric. Each step forward heightened the stakes, making the tournament feel more intense and unpredictable, while broadcasters focused heavily on her narrative. Experts shifted their focus, and even casual viewers began prioritizing her matches over the officially designated headliners. Then the climate changed. A clash between Sabalenka and Goff should have been a massive draw and a perfect finale for the event. Instead, the match served as a sobering lesson. It proved what happens when the catalyst for organic passion is removed. Ticket interest plummeted compared to the frantic demand seen during Eala's matches. Secondary market prices showed a significant lack of enthusiasm from the public. The social media firestorm cooled into standard commentary and stale debates once the true draw was gone. It became clear that this was no fluke. She possesses a unique magnetic pull that cannot be faked or easily duplicated by others. She remains incredibly humble with her supporters. She dedicates time to signing autographs and taking photos, making it clear to the Filipino community that she carries their pride. She keeps the national colors close to her heart, regardless of where her career takes her globally. At only 20 years old, she displays a profound understanding of her role as a national representative. Her maturity has made her a national icon, standing alongside legends like Manny Pacquiao in the hearts of her people. What she brought to the courts in Miami went far beyond technical skill. She brought an irresistible narrative force. She provided a reason for the public to invest emotionally, creating stakes that felt deeply personal for everyone watching. Early matches became essential viewing as she compelled the entire tournament to center around her every move. Once she exited, that magnetic energy vanished, leaving the league with a difficult problem to solve. How does a total underdog, someone not even listed as a threat when things kicked off, end up as the primary engine for ticket demand, massive viewership peaks, and total audience obsession? And further, what does it say about the current establishment when such a magnetic force is initially dismissed as an irrelevant afterthought by the system? This transcends a single event. It reveals a massive systemic gap that Alex Eala ripped wide open for everyone to see in real time. She proved that true power in the modern game is not measured by trophies or ranking points alone, but by a raw charisma and the rare gift of forging a bond that the public feels desperate to witness. In Miami, she commanded that spotlight without any of the corporate machinery usually required for such fame, even as scheduling chaos loomed over her. The young athlete was visibly stunned when officials floated the idea of scrapping her match entirely or moving it. She questioned why the schedules for stars like Alcaraz or Fognini were set in stone while hers remained in a state of limbo. She pointed out that the previous night's session ran until 9 o'clock, yet her time slot was the one being threatened. Despite her disbelief at the match nearly being cancelled, she took control of the situation and refused to let the momentum slip away. She chose to take the court immediately, prioritizing a potential day of recovery to sharpen her focus and recharge for the next round. Though the lack of respect was jarring, she appreciated having the final say in her own professional fate and felt satisfied with her choice. This grit makes the contrast with the eventual finalists even more glaring, despite their legendary status and the massive resumes they brought to the court. These were household names, icons supported by decades of marketing and global investment behind their personal brands. Yet, regarding sheer magnetism during those 2 weeks, neither of them matched the electric energy Eala generated in just a few appearances. This is an objective reality. The evidence is etched in the ticket queues, the the television ratings, and the visible deflation of the crowd after her departure. She brought a soul to the stadium that simply cannot be manufactured. Alex Eala gave the fans a feeling they will not forget. Once her fire was extinguished, the remaining matches felt clinical, predictable, and devoid of that urgent electric tension. Consequently, the organizers' failure to anticipate her rise looks less like a routine mistake and more like a massive wasted opportunity to embrace the moment. They did not spark her flame, but they certainly failed to fan it before it was too late, leaving the Women's Tennis Association in an increasingly awkward position. Online discussions shifted from who would lift the trophy to a much more pointed and uncomfortable observation. Why did it feel like the tournament reached its climax long before the final match even began? With Indian Wells in the rearview mirror, the relentless professional circuit now shifts its focus to the shores of Miami. One has to wonder if the league will ever modernize their glacial media updates, but that is a frustration for another day. The draw is set, though it lacks the presence of Emma Raducanu, who was forced to withdraw due to her ongoing health issues. All eyes turn to the reigning queen of Indian Wells and the current world leader, Aryna Sabalenka. While Sabalenka's path seems manageable compared to her peers, the prospect of her facing off against heavy hitters like Ostapenko or Svitolina promises some genuine fireworks in her bracket. After an opening round bye, she will likely find herself across the net from either a qualifier or Lee in her debut. Yet, that lingering feeling remains. The true highlight of the event had already passed, and it had nothing to do with top seeds. It was not found in the polished marketing scripts or the bracket projections designed for a predictable television climax. It was the Eala effect, a realization that forced everyone to reconsider how they view the hierarchy of the sport. Professional tennis thrives on its rigid structure, where rankings define destiny and seedings create the path to the top. The entire ecosystem is engineered to funnel the most famous faces toward a predictable Sunday finish, where the stakes are high and the audience is largest, yet Miami completely shattered that logic. The most electrifying narratives were the ones no one saw coming, growing organically without any corporate push. There were no billboards featuring her face, and no massive public relations blitzes crowning her as the face of the event. No media campaign framed her as a must-watch star, and no one expected her to carry the tournament's emotional weight. She simply stepped onto the court, and the world could not look away. A rare, unbought stardom. This was more than a hot streak, it was a tectonic shift. Now, Sabalenka, it is vital to remember that the heart of sportsmanship is the ability to win with humility and lose with dignity. To be a true champion, one must carry the weight of a loss with as much grace as the crown itself. Diminishing Coco's triumph or her victory in Paris won't actually soothe the underlying frustration. Looking back at those 2 weeks, she faced grueling battles against elite opponents, yet her performance peaked well before the championship round. Truth be told, it was the most lackluster tennis she had produced in several months of competition. The atmosphere proved disastrous, and her rival simply navigated the chaos better, resulting in her most disappointing final ever. This outcome made the stadium's empty seats a glaring indictment, exposing the chasm between artificial marketing and genuine fan devotion. In one corner, Aryna Sabalenka and Coco Gauff, two titans whose accolades and worldwide fame define them as undisputed icons by every standard. Yet, a ghostly presence lingered over the court, a player long gone from the bracket who somehow managed to remain the center of attention. That isn't typical, and it creates a restless environment for a leadership that thrives on controlled outcomes for its premier showcases. This isn't a knock on the finalists themselves, as both Sabalenka and Gauff lived up to their billing. They provided the high-octane skill and polished grit expected of them, but something deeper was missing from the narrative. The thrill of a breakthrough remains the most intoxicating force in the world of athletics because it offers spectators the rare sensation of catching lightning in a bottle before it goes mainstream, making the experience feel deeply personal. That lightning cannot be manufactured on a calendar. It cannot be forced into a bracket, and once it fades, the void is impossible to fill. While today seemed simple, the previous 7 days had been a gauntlet of marathons, though she found joy in the struggle of winning in 2 sets. The athlete had clearly rediscovered her rhythm, proving that her period of doubt was finally over. It had been a rough road since the California event, marked by a nagging limb injury and an early exit that tested her spirit. She was asked to recount the evolution of her game over those 3 grueling weeks of recovery and resurgence. Indeed, she had nearly skipped the tournament entirely after her previous failure, reflecting a hesitation that the league now quietly mourns. It highlighted a systemic failure to grasp the lightning of human momentum while it was still surging through the ranks. By the time the officials react, the golden window has closed, leaving Miami as a lesson in missed potential. When the audience begins searching for that missing spark and finds nothing, they notice. The focus now shifts toward the future, questioning if the next rise of a talent like Alex Eala will be handled differently. Will the governing body step up to fan the flames of a new star, or will they simply watch from the periphery? While the fans decide for themselves who truly commands the spotlight,